welcome to the Marina Skua podcast. My name's Marina, I'm a knitwear designer and yarn and fibre dyer, and in this podcast I talk a bit about my work and about some of my personal crafty projects. Now, if you've watched regularly previously, you may have noticed that I took a bit of an unintentional hiatus. We had a lot of building work done on the house and it became basically impossible to get anything done. The builders moved out a couple of weeks ago, and while I still have quite a lot of painting to do on the house, things are once again getting back to normal and I can carry on with the podcast. So I'm really excited to come back to it and chat about what I've been making because I've missed it. So I have a few things to kind of catch up on. I'm not going to show you literally everything I've done over the past few months all in one go because that would be excessive. So I'm probably gonna eke a couple of things out over the next couple of episodes, and I hope that's okay with you. So in the meantime, I want to thank my patrons for sticking with me because I have been somehow managing to create Patreon videos while everything's been a bit much. And for those who aren't aware, I have a Patreon where I share bonus videos and there's early access to shop updates and various discounts and a Discord group and things, and it's all very nice. So I have a big old heap of things here to show you, and so I'll start with what I'm wearing. This is the Scrumper cardigan, which in the last episode I was still knitting. Since then it has been tech edited, test knitted, and the pattern is now released. So this is a cardigan version of my Scrumper waistcoat, which I released a year and a half ago. And so it has sleeves, and if I just stand up a second, I've made it the length that's specified in the pattern, which is with 6 buttonholes. But the way the pattern is written, it's bottom up, worked flat, the button band is worked at the same time, so you can just omit or add on buttonholes as you choose to modify the length. It's really easy, all you have to do is account for the different yarn usage. So I have also made a 4-button version of the cardigan, which is a bit cropped. It sort of sits at high hip, just below my natural waist, and that works really nicely with skirts and things, and I may consider making a shorter version of this one as well. So the yarn is John Arbon Textiles Appledore DK in the colour Sweet Coppin, which I think is a lovely name. All of the names in the range are taken from local West Country apple varieties. So I'm in the southwest of England, I'm in Wiltshire, and John Arbon are just a couple of counties away in Devon. So there are lots of apple varieties in the range that are from sort of round here, which I really like. And that it's named such because the fibre is also from all within the West Country. It's a few different breeds of wool, and let me just double check for you which breeds it is. So this is the yarn here, and I always forget the percentages. So it's 40% Devon close wool, 40% Romney, and 20% Exmoor Blueface. So it's a really nice, sort of quite sturdy yarn. It's worsted spun, but it's not super high twist. It's got like a little halo to it, and the colours are really, really tweedy. So the fibre itself isn't blended really thoroughly. So you get little streaks of other bits of colours in each of the colourways. So this one, while mostly is a kind of pinky, browny, purpley red, it also has some notes of like nice green in it, which give it a load of depth, and I love that in my yarn. So the team at John Arbon Textiles have put together some kits for the cardigan. The pattern is available from me and you can get the yarn from them, and I'll put links to those things in the description box below. Yeah, so I love this one. I've been wearing it quite a bit. Finally the weather has begun to warm up. It's been pretty grim all of supposed summer in the UK so far. As much as I like being able to wear my knitwear, I'm definitely a warm weather person. The sun makes me happy and I've been missing the sun. But at least I can wear my knitwear. Now, other things I've finished, I will show you this one quickly because this one I've just opened the test knit for. So it would be lovely to get some nice test knitters for it. This, I don't think I've showed at all. This is the tree hay tank. And the yarn I've used is from Gutchpool Farm, which is quite nearby to me. I've mentioned that I'm doing a collection of patterns which is going to be published later on, date TBC, and it's using yarns that are grown, produced, processed and spun completely within the West Country. So the wool for this one is from Gutchpool. They're really nearby to me, so I've been down to visit a couple of times, and the cream is their Dorset down, and the two brown colours, so the light brown and the really dark greyish brown, are their Shetland, and they're undyed natural colours. This version, I've got a little split hem here, and there's some shaping on the armholes and on the neck so that they get a little bit wider towards the top. But both those and the split hem are details that you can omit if you prefer. The pattern is written so you can do either, because I quite like the patterns to be quite unisex, and some people prefer more interesting details and some people prefer things to be a little bit plainer, so I've included those. So yes, details for the test knit are on my website. Again, I'll put a link to that below, and I'd love to hear if you'd like to knit it. There is a little discount available from Gutchpool if you'd like to use their yarn for the test knit. And as well as the beautiful natural colours, they've also got quite a few dyed colours on the Dorset down, some of which are really, really tempting me and I would like to use myself. And then project in progress. I only have one knitting project I can actually show you because I am in the midst of a lot of secret knitting for magazines that I can't show you. Which is always a shame. I like to be able to show what I'm making. But they're fun things that you'll find out about in like 6 months' time or something. Oh, I've got some strange little things in here. Let's take those out. So this is a project I started, well, I spun the yarn last year. So this is a hand-spun project. At the moment, the knitting isn't much to look at. Oh, where am I? I've got it on stoppers. I use interchangeable needles pretty much exclusively. It's on stoppers because I'm using the needles I need for this for one of the aforementioned projects I can't show you. It's going to be a cardigan. Is just about beginning to look cardigan shaped. So at the moment I'm working on the back, and you've got the fronts there. And this is, as I said, some yarn I spun up last year. It's a semi-worsted, kind of verging on woolen spun, 3-ply yarn in approximately a DK weight. It's quite fuzzy, so although meterage wise it's probably a little bit lighter than a DK weight, it works out that way because it's got a lot of fuzz to it which fills up space. That's a little bit of the fibre that happened to escape the basket when I was spinning, and I only found it last week. So I've got a fair bit of yarn. I've got one whole big skein here, and then I'm working from 2 balls at a time because I got impatient with this spin. It took a very long time and it was just lots and lots and lots of grey. And so I did the first big load of spinning, filled up my bobbins, got a little bit bored, went on to spin something else and then came back to the rest of it. But it means that the yarn from the 2 separate spinning sessions for this is very, very slightly different, and I just don't want there to be a sudden change where I switch from one skein of yarn to another. So I'm alternating every row, which isn't too much of a faff. I tend to do that with a lot of hand-dyed yarn and things anyway. So yes, this is going, I haven't even mentioned what it's going to be, I don't think. It's going to be a Mistland cardigan, which is a pattern I released a couple of years ago, about 2 years ago I think. It was originally published in Knit Now, and the sample that I knitted for that was in a very not me shade of pink. And so I'm making a nice fuzzy grey one for myself, which I hope will get a bit more wear. And on the subject of warm grey yarn that is 3-ply and undyed, this is my most recent spinning project. It's slightly different. This is slightly fuzzier, and it's kind of, this one's got an almost slightly more like lavendery pinky tone to it, if you can see that. The quality of grey is different, but I don't know why I did massive quantities of 3-ply undyed grey yarn 2 years in a row that I then got really bored of. But this is a lot of yarn. This is my Solace blend, which is my most recent blend from Wingham Woolwork. So I've been working with Wingham since last year, and they do lovely work blending both dyed merino and Corriedale fibres, but also they have a really nice big range of undyed British wool, and they will blend them up for you. And so last year I released my Skua blend, which I will show you some of soon. This is the Solace blend, which is, I talked about it a bit in the last episode because I think I had just got in my sample batch and was possibly beginning to try it out, I don't remember. And so this is all of my sample batch that Ellie and Tom made for me while I was up visiting them in Gloucestershire. So the batch was meant to be 500 grams, but it is not weighed out precisely. In my head I just assumed it was 500 grams, and I had taken some out for like bits of sampling. Like I did some woolen and some worsted just to see how they would behave, and there was some subtracted from that original quantity. So in my head I was going to be spinning probably 470 grams, 480 maybe, and I wondered why it took so long. This is actually 580 grams of 3-ply. It's worsted spun, which is not my favourite way to spin, but I really, really love the yarn it's given. It's quite bouncy. There's a lot of crimp in this blend. So this is Dorset Horn, Shropshire and Cotswold. So the Cotswold is fairly long and a bit lustrous. The Dorset Down is the opposite. It's very, very bouncy. Not Dorset Down, sorry. Dorset Horn is very, very, very crimpy. It's like clouds. It's amazing. And then the Shropshire is somewhere in between. The Shropshire is a warm grey, like a bit of a darker grey, and then the Dorset and the Cotswold are both white, and so that's what gives this lovely grey colour. And so I have yet to decide what I'm going to be making with these. I did put out a thing before filming to see if anyone had any questions or anything they'd like me to talk about in this and subsequent episodes of the podcast. And someone, I believe it was Inky Feathers on Instagram, asked for recommendations for patterns for woolen versus worsted spun, hand spun yarn, which is a huge question. So very broadly, I like to use woolen spun yarn. I love it for colour work. It's super for colour work. It's nice and bouncy, and I think it makes the stitches look really pretty. Worsted spun yarn for colour work can look a little bit harsh and spiky, like it can look a bit crisp, and I prefer my stranded colour work for any lines in the design to sort of be a little bit smoother and more flowing. And it also helps to trap floats, and especially if you're steeking, I would definitely recommend a woolen spun yarn. I have quite a few patterns for woolen spun yarns because my Mendip, 4-ply and DK, which I have some of back here. This is DK here, and then behind me under there is 4-ply. Both of those are woolen spun, and so sort of any of my things I've designed for those would be really nice for woolen spun. Worsted, you can't, it's not just colour work, but that's my favourite thing to do with woolen spun yarn. Woolen spun yarn tends to be nice and light and bouncy and traps air quite nicely and is quite warm, given that it's not very heavy, so it's less dense, and so tends to be, it kind of has a bit more body to it. Whereas worsted tends to have more stitch definition, so for things like cables I think it's great. For things with details in it I think it's wonderful. I would say it's sort of an essential for sock knitting if you actually want your socks to last longer than it takes you to knit them. It's just a bit of a stronger construction, and usually you would use a much longer staple length for worsted spinning. For this one I am considering doing a hex angle, which is a pattern, I think it was my first ever knitting pattern published in a magazine, and once again it was for Knit Now, and once again they assigned me pink yarn that was not to my taste. And so the sample now lives with my aunt, who wears it and looks lovely in it, and I think this would be really, really nice. It's got kind of interesting little cable and ribbing details, and then it's got ribbed sleeves, and it's quite sort of geometric, and I think this could be really nice in that. Like, it's a fairly classic shape, but it's got interesting stitch patterns, and I think this yarn would show off that stitch pattern really nicely. This one I'm wearing, the Scrumper, is also a worsted yarn. It's, as I mentioned, a not a low twist, but it doesn't have a really high twist to it. And so it's got just little cabley details. We've got moss stitch under the arms. I didn't actually show you that bit. This is my favourite bit of the whole design. So the cables go up from the hem up round the underarms, and there's a little column of moss stitch there, and then we've got more cables that come from the join of the sleeve to flank that along the underarm, where they join onto the cuff. So things like this I think work really nicely in a worsted spun yarn, because it'll just show off those details a bit better. And also, because this pattern has fairly fitted sleeves, again, like I said with socks, worsted spun yarn is good because you're going to get some strain on the elbows, so it'll just be a little bit stronger, whereas a woolen spun yarn might wear through a bit more quickly on those points that have a lot of strain on them. It's a subject I could go into for ages and ages. I think for things like shawls, you could do either. Like, I kind of think that each will give the qualities of... I'm not explaining that well. In a shawl, the yarn you use will definitely affect the kind of fabric you create. A woolen spun yarn is likely to be lighter and bouncier, as I said. It will be warmer given the weight, whereas a worsted spun yarn would probably give a little bit more drape. It might cling to you a bit more nicely. And so it kind of depends on the feel. Like, I would think a worsted spun yarn, sorry, a woolen spun yarn for a shawl would feel a little bit more rustic, and worsted might feel a little bit more elegant, but it really, really depends on the pattern you choose and the yarn in particular, also the weight of the yarn. Big topic. But yes, I think those, I definitely have enough for a nice jumper quantity. So it'll be either a jumper or a cardigan, but realistically it's going to be a very long time before any of that happens, because I am chocker with knitting for the rest of the year. In fact, another question I got, and I've forgotten who it was, that's awful of me. It was one of my patrons. She asked what my knitting plans are for the autumn. Lots and lots. I will be showing those as I get going on them, and the ones that I am able to show you I will. I will hopefully be able to get in a little bit of work on my Mistland. It would be really nice to carve out some personal knitting time rather than work knitting time, because I have a lot of big deadlines for things coming up. I have 2 designs for magazines which I can't share with you, one of which is almost finished, and another I will be starting probably in a couple of months' time. I think that one's not due until November, so I have a bit of time in hand for that one. Then I will very soon be casting on a cardigan for my West Country collection, which is what the tree hay is part of. That will be using yarn from Gullet Farm down in Devon, very close to where my grandma lives actually, and I went down there a couple of months ago. Really, really beautiful place, and I have talked a little bit about that design and what it's going to look like on Patreon, so there is a video there. I will link it just in case you want to have a look. And yeah, I will be showing that one as I get started with it, but at the moment there's not really much to show. And there is also another cardigan that I'm going to be casting on. I'm making a ridiculous number of garments at the moment because I love knitting garments, and I just have a lot on. I tend to schedule my design work quite poorly, where I am working on a lot of things all at once, and then suddenly I'm free as a bird for a few months, and I need to spread them out a bit more, but hey ho. So yes, I have lots of things that I will be showing in upcoming episodes as I start them. And then a little bit more spinning chat. So I've mentioned my Solace blend there, which is this lovely grey, and I am just about to do a shop update with spinning fibre. So I shall show you what I've got coming up in the shop. Now these will be going up for my patrons on Friday, and my subscribers on Patreon get access 24 hours early to shop updates where there are like limited quantities of things. And yes, they'll be going out on Friday for patrons and then Saturday for everyone else. And so I've got 9 colours, and at the moment I have 9 braids of each, so 900 grams available. Each braid is 100 grams. I haven't named any of the colours yet. I'm going to sort of sit down. Naming colours for me involves a lot of, like, some of them I already know the kind of vibe it's got. Like with my dye work, some things I will plan in advance, like what kind of thing I'm going for. Other things I will put things in the pot that is fun, and then I will name them afterwards, and that is what I've done with these ones. So here we have 3 colours of Solace blend. So this is the Dorset Horn, Shropshire and Cotswold, and with these ones the colour takes in a really watercolory kind of way, like it's very gentle and kind of dusty looking, which I absolutely love. And I've been really enjoying letting lots of the natural colour of the fibre show through. So here we've just got some very gentle, quite close to the colour I'm wearing, purple with a bit of yellow, and that's kind of most of what's going on with that one. But yes, quite yellow. And the way I have done these, a lot of them have similar colours at each end and then a different colour in the middle. So with those, I did a video recently on Patreon where I showed how I split my my fibre for spinning, my wall top for spinning for my own projects, and I'll show you that in a minute, just the result of that video. I like to shred my tops. I like to strip them down into tiny pieces and then break up all the colours, because I like quite mingly distribution of colours, whereas you could sort of split this down the middle and then spin both of them, one on each bobbin, spin them together as a 2-ply, and then you would preserve those colour changes, and that would look astounding for something like a shawl where you are using the placement of the colours as a feature. So they're designed so that you can use the colours as they are to create something just really like quite dramatic, or you can mush them up a bit depending on your preferred style. You can do fractal spinning and stuff. Yeah, so that first one. Then this one, we've got blues and reds, and the blue is sort of a little bit lavendery in places, so it's definitely a purpley blue rather than a greeny blue, but we don't have much actual purple where the blue and red meet. They're quite separate, and you know, we'll have bits where you've got a blue bit and then a red bit, but you could spin it so that the blue and red stay quite distinct, or you could mush them up and make it quite purpley. And then this one I absolutely love because I love my greens and oranges. So this one is a bit more sort of complex in terms of the colours mixing. We've got some reddy, orangey, yellowy sections, and then mingling in with greeny, yellowy, kind of orangey, browny sections. I really like this one. And then in a kind of similar vibe, so those are the Solace blend ones. We've now got Skua blend, which is the original one I released, which is a Dorset Horn, Cheviot, Manx Lochten, Teeswater and Jacob blend. It's too many breeds, why did I put 5 in there? And that one's got a lot of richness. It's slightly less crimpy. It's so it's less sort of really, really springy and bouncy. In fact, I can kind of show you. So these are similar but not the same colours. So this is the Solace, this is the Skua. You can see that the Skua is naturally a bit darker, but I've also dyed a darker colour on top of it. So we've got these really dark streaks through it that are the Jacob. And I've kind of done a similar thing here, where I've done green at the ends and then more of a red in the middle, but these two sort of complement each other quite well, and you can kind of see the difference in general vibe. Like, they have a very different vibe. Like, Skua is fairly moody and a little bit less bouncy, and then Solace is just super fat and cloudy and lovely. I marginally prefer Skua to spin, but they're both very nice. Skua just spins really, really, really smoothly, and I think it's quite a good beginner fibre blend. I specifically designed it to be really, really lovely to spin, so I just combined all the qualities I like in spinning fibre, taking them from different breeds. And so yeah, greeny red. I've gone quite sludgy with the Skua colours. You'll have, if you don't like the sludge, please forgive me. I'm enjoying myself. This one is, you know, it goes quite well with this. Just sort of nice varying shades of pink with a little bit of purple. And again, some of the natural colour showing through. So we've got more intense colour towards the ends. Then this one I really like. It looks fairly sort of bland, but I think will be absolutely beautiful spun up. It's just got a lot of very, very subtle depth to it, like quite warm colours, sort of very gentle, like very faded orangey, yellowy, pinky brown, kind of like dried flowers. I might just call this one dried flowers because that's the vibe it's giving me. But yeah, it's got really nice stuff going on in there. And then this one I think works well with this one. So it's got a slightly stronger orange to it on the ends. But then in the middle, we've got nice kind of really dark, oh, it's not showing up very well there, kind of indigo-y, bluey colour that just contrasts beautifully with it. So I really, really like this one. I think it's lovely. So I think those two would ply very nicely together. And then with a similar, like very slightly more purpley, but very similar blue in the middle, is this one, which then has more greeny colours at the ends. And again, very subtle, like shifts in colour. But that's something I've been going for very deliberately with this one, with this kind of batch. There are a few brighter ones in there, but I've been sort of playing with how kind of subtle and murky can I make them, because although they don't, in the braid, they're not as exciting to look at as sort of really strong, bright colours. But I think when they're spun up, they're just so much more wearable. And, you know, I like some bright colours, I like some strong colours, but I also wear a lot of sort of sludgy green and beige and brown, and these colours just kind of work really nicely with that. So I've been having lots of fun with those. I hope you're going to like them as well. And so yes, I'll be getting those all ready to go up on the website. If you want to have a look at Patreon to get early access to the shop update, you can sign up from £2 a month. You don't have to stick around forever. You can join, get your fibre and then run away again. That's fine. If you do that, like when you leave, please let me know that it's not because you just don't like what I'm doing. It's really helpful to know like what people want to see from me and also what they're not enjoying. That goes for the podcast too. If there's stuff you want to see from me, like give me a comment. I can't always reply to every comment because I am very short on time. I'm still only working technically 3 days a week. I do what I can. And so now I will very quickly show you my next project, my next spinning project, which I'm super excited about because this basket has been sitting here for a while I finish this thing. Now that that is done, I can work on this basket of happiness. So this is Skua Blend. This is a colourway from a previous update called Highland. Let's have a look. Closest in vibe would be this one, but with this we've got like slightly more red than orange, but the green is fairly similar. I think there's a tiny bit less blue in this green. So yeah, a bit less blue in the green and a bit less yellow in the red, but the vibe is fairly similar. And so I've got these all split up into nests because that is my preferred way of doing things. And when I spin it, I'll just be grabbing a nest, starting to spin it. I'm planning on doing it as a sort of as fine as I can go with not a true woolen, because I don't like to do long draw for long periods of time, but kind of semi-woolen where I'm not doing full-on long draw, but I'm definitely not smoothing or compressing the fibre. And I'm just really looking forward to spinning this. I think it's going to be very pretty. So I will be spinning it very fine. I'm going to aim for a 2-ply. I will probably have to spin in multiple sessions because I don't think it'll all fit on my bobbins. And it's going to be lots of fun. I'm looking forward to slightly more interesting spinning where I get to choose colours and things and it's not just months of the same. I think that is all I have to talk about with you today. In the next episode, I'm hoping that I will have a little bit of nice weather so I can show you around my garden, because it's looking really nice. I'm very pleased, considering I haven't spent nearly as much time gardening as I like because the weather's been appalling and we had scaffolding out there for a very long time. The garden's doing quite nicely and I will enjoy showing you around if you are interested. So I will aim to put that at the end of the next video when I manage to do that one. And yeah, I hope you've enjoyed this. If you want to keep up with me in between episodes, you can follow me on Instagram where I share a lot of my projects and updates as they come out. You can join my newsletter, which is the best place to hear about new pattern releases and shop updates, that's available freely. And then you can check out my Patreon if you want to look at all the benefits I have mentioned previously. And thank you very much for watching. If you have enjoyed this episode, please like, share, tell someone you think might enjoy it. I am slightly nervous that not having filmed for a while and therefore not having put videos out might affect the number of people who see this video, so it would be really, really nice if I could just make sure that people actually get to see it. So thank you very much and I'll catch you next time. Bye bye.